Hi, I'm Kim Izzarelli and welcome to Insights with Kim Izzarelli. Camp Smith is a fixture here in Peekskill. For many of us outside military life, we may not even be aware that Camp Smith is there. But for military personnel and their families in the area, it represents a lifeline. For many that are coming back, reorienting to civilian life, building job skills, and seeking services to pull their lives back together after serving our country. Joining me today is retired Sergeant First Class Raul Lopez. He is the Survivor Outreach Services Coordinator at Camp Smith, and I'm so pleased that you could be here with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Kim. Thank you for having me.
Good. For our viewers tonight, could you tell us a little bit about what happens at Camp Smith and why it's important for our military personnel and their families?
Surely. Camp Smith is our premier National Guard training site for New York State, serving not just National Guard members, but all components of the military and law enforcement as well. And it also assists the community with a lot of activities. Part of that are different programs that have been initiated by the Army to help support our service members and their families. As you know, when our service members deploy and they're gone for a length of time, a lot of the families really don't know how the military works and our organization. So we've developed a number of programs to assist them in that realm and help that transition during the period of deployment and then when they come back. Part of that is family services programs, which are offered through other individuals under Army contract at Camp Smith. And a lot of that also will deal with employment situations. Another aspect that the Army has looked at to support families is in a different context, though. That is what we call Survivor Outreach Services. The Army will sustain casualties during periods of conflict, but there are also casualties that occur due to training accidents or illnesses and such, and even retirees. And for a long time, those programs have had a different way of being addressed to the public, to our military family members, of which obviously our regular public is not so much aware of. There's a three-part process to assisting families that have lost soldiers or fallen members. And first of it starts with our casualty management program, which is headquartered out of San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
And we have, within the notification that soldiers passed away through whatever situation might have occurred, we have a notification process. That usually occurs within 4 hours of being aware that soldiers passed on. And that's what you usually see in some TV movies and programs where a chaplain goes out with another high-ranking service member to inform the family of the passing of the soldier. Within 4 hours after that notification process, we have our casualty assistance officer who notifies the family they would like to meet with them, and they will be the one for the short term who will discuss entitlements, benefits, assist them through the honors process of the soldiers passing, and take the family through the different steps that are required to make sure that their needs are met and that the family members are not left out there all by themselves struggling with the process. And then the third process is something that's new for the Army. Prior, for long-term support and care, there was an 800 number, and it was a far-off process that the families were not very much aware of in terms of support. You know, when you lose a person in your family, you go through immediate struggling with adaptation, dealing with the grief and everything, and kind of things go by real quick, and it's usually with a semblance of time that you'll think about things that are important afterwards. With the Army families, it's who do I reach? How do I contact? Where do I go for information? Because I couldn't think of this in the past and I'm struggling with it now. So the Army has come up with Army Survivor Outreach Services Program. What they have done is they've reached out to military installations, National Guard locations, reserve armories, and they have hired individuals, most of them being former retired military persons like myself, under contract. And what we do is we provide long-term service and care and support for these military families. Long after the casualty assistance officers moved on, we're there for long-term support for as long as those families want us. We're not selling a program. It's a free service. It's there for as long as they require it or need it. We hope we build resiliency with these individuals, and at some point they're able to stand up on their own 2 feet and survive and move on. But at some point, if they do need us, they don't have to look far for us to get them information.
Mm-hmm. Well, give me some examples of some of the things they might look to you for.
Right now, I'm dealing with approximately 300 individual survivors. I serve an area right now from Long Island through upper Hudson Valley and extending all the way out to Rockland, Ulster, Orange counties. Typically, we would have a support coordinator for 5 counties. There's one presently hired for Fort Hamilton. I'm covering the mid-Hudson Valley region as well as the area that's serviced by West Point. Until West Point replaces their coordinator. The services we provide are in conjunction with our casualty assistance officers. Grief counseling, we coordinate, make available financial counselors because, as you know, there are some funds that will be receiving entitlements and benefits, and it can be pretty large in terms of cash value, and all this all of a sudden just falling upon a survivor can be confusing. And so we attempt to offer free financial counseling. These are certified individuals that are not selling a product, but basically saying, here's some tax-free programs, here's some other government services that we could provide to shelter this money until you're ready to decide how you want to deal with it. Grief counseling. We can offer those services through our Veterans Administration agencies. There are a number of free agencies that also offer support, like TAPS, Tragedy Assistance Program, and Army One Source. And these services will provide some degree of comfort for the individuals to go through the grieving process, to learn how to build resiliency. I must caution that sometimes it's not a one fix for everybody. The grief counseling sometimes is not what the individual's looking in terms of what the government's able to provide. So we work with religious institutions. A lot of times they're pastors or the congregations help them build that resiliency as well too through their faith healing process. And we have, thank God, a lot of a network of professional service providers that will offer free counseling services from their professional network. Again, a lot of these are at no cost, unlimited visits, but it depends on the locale. I mean, obviously, you know, when you look at a metropolitan area like New York City, there's so much varied services available. But as you get to the outlying counties like Dutchess County, Ulster, or even out Long Island, it's very difficult to find those services. And there's a lot of traveling involved for some of these survivors. So we try to work with them as much as possible.
Have, you know, women and men now too, and women who may be mothers.
That's true. We used to also refer to them also as a Gold Star mothers, but now we're looking in terms of what we call Gold Star families, because we want to embrace the entire family. The loss is just not felt by the mother, but the father, the children, spouses, even grandparents. Everybody's part of that family unit, and so we look to address that and provide services at varying degrees for everybody that's involved in the program.
You know, I should let our audience know this is being taped on March 5th, and we are in the throes of the sequester cuts here, and I was just curious if you could maybe say you're supporting 300 families in your outreach services, how that's affecting, how it may be affecting you at Camp Smith.
Well, presently right now with the issue with sequester, we don't know the exact impact that's going to be on this program. Obviously, government's pretty much at still right now trying to figure out the impact on other social programs. Our directive right now is to go along with the mission statement, which is to provide that long-term support. We'll be out there for as long as the families need us. My contact information is on your screen, and feel free to reach out to me. Our service is not limited to those that are lost in conflict. Our services are also directed to those Army members, whether they're Army National Guard, Reserve, or active component, that we lose a soldier due to an accident, an illness, even retirees. I had a recent situation where a young lady gave me a call asking for assistance because she had nowhere else to go. Apparently her husband had passed on a couple of years ago in an aircraft accident, and her children now were of college age. And she wanted to know, was there any programs that are available for today for my children going to college to help support and pay those costs, because she hasn't remarried. And ironically, there are supports, there's scholarships, there are military funds available through the Veterans Administration for ongoing educational assistance. That's one of the great benefits about having a live coordinator who can help coordinate that outreach, that liaison to those agencies and support services to make that possibility for those people. So that, you know, they still have a permanent tie to military. They inherited us, we inherited them. We're not breaking those bonds, and we're going to be there for the long term for them, for their support. So they should always count that we're going to be there for them.
Well, it's great that they have you, Raul. You're the face, and they've served our country, and they should have a direct person to be in touch with, and it's great that it's you. It's quite an honor. Yeah. You have a fabulous background. I mean, you've done many things. Could you just take a minute and tell us about your professional background, how you got started, how you ended here with, and I assume we'll keep on doing more things, but just tell us a little bit about that, because it's fascinating.
I basically, when I was in college, during the Vietnam era, I wound up getting drafted into the Army. I volunteered to go to the Air Force. So I spent 6 years active duty service with the Army, rather with the Air Force, and served a period of time in Vietnam as well. But during my affiliation with the active duty Air Force, I traveled quite a bit. And I saw a lot of conditions in other countries that, you know, kind of bothered me and left me with an impression about how lucky I am to be in the United States and resources that I have available for me. But I also was involved in the Air Force Honor Guard in a program that had to deal with passing honors to our fallen members in Vietnam. And so I became very intrigued with that process. Lo and behold, when I was released from the Air Force, I went to the corporate world. Talking about going from one extreme to the other, I wound up being fortunate enough to find a job working for Sesame Street, Children's TV Workshop. So I got involved with children's programming. I was actually in the accounting department, but for some whatever luck, I wound up getting into some of the production and understanding the background, the process, and getting involved in educational program. So my nieces all grown up with Sesame Street characters and everything. You know, glad Uncle could always bring the free stuff for them. But from there, I went back to the corporate world. As an accountant, as my profession is, I went to work with numerous organizations, North American Phillips, Dun & Bradstreet, and all along I just worked within the realm of customer service and being able to provide the public with the type of quality service that they were entitled to and they should have been receiving. My love for the government and the Army didn't wane. Friends of mine talked me into joining the Army National Guard as I try one. Well, I did, and the one turned into a career, and I stayed. And as I evolved from a part-time soldier back to a full-time soldier, I just happened to hit a period of time when the conflict started all over again. So I don't know if it was my calling, but through that development, I've worked in Valhalla. I've worked here at Camp Smith. My last assignment working with range control and offering support facilities and services and training for our soldiers that were deploying. So I made a lot of connections with those individuals and those families and realized, you know, there was a certain amount of anxiety with those that were leaving the first time that the Army National Guard in large numbers was sending service members overseas for conflict. And so this was all new to the families and the soldiers. So I worked with trying to provide the best services and support possible. We didn't know how long these conflicts would extend. I retired in 2010 and thought that perhaps my time with the service after 28 years was now at an end and welcoming retirement. Well, lo and behold, an opportunity came up, which I applied for Survivor Outreach Services. Since I had to some extent already been involved with the military, I was a notification officer. I did have the hardest job of actually knocking on the door of a family and informing them that they had lost someone in the military, a family member. And in my 28 years, it's probably the hardest job I ever had. I could probably welcome taking on combat and all the enemy, but it's hard when you walk up to a family and knock on that door and tell them the bad news. So I felt an obligation to take on this role with the Survivor Outreach Services and try to provide that long-term care that I could no longer provide as a service member since I was now retired. So it's been an illustrious career. I enjoy it.
Career. And I think for military folks that maybe are watching this, and I think you are a shining example of someone who has transitioned between, you know, military life and the private sector. What's the one thing that you can look back on, or the one skill or trait that the military gave you that you believe allowed you or gave you that quality or ability to make those successful transitions?
You know, the Army is a very unique institution, and they provide a lot of coaching. And through their military schools for our non-commissioned officers, they have an ability to hone your skills to where you feel you could use them of the most value. A lot of that's team building, where you're going to work with a group of individuals, and you know you have a diverse organization and group, so you take the best from each and you try to use that to overcome the weakest points. There's also leadership, not just developing your own leadership skills, but developing and mentoring those below you to develop those skills as well. And then there's also, because of the fact that you have such a unique brotherhood, actually they're closer members of your family than your real family members sometimes, because you live with them 24/7. Yeah. So you develop a kinship to always look out for each other long term, beyond just that point where you've met each other and say, okay, good night, you're going home. So in my role as a leader with other soldiers under me, I like to know who their family are, their wives, their children, what's going on. It's important to me to know how they feel and get that tempo. So I've taken that now and taken it one step further with survivor outreach, as I meet these survivors, and they're from all unique cultures and walks of life, because you know New York City is a great melting pot. And I do service a lot of families that are not from New York or from the United States. I've had families from Africa, from China, from Haiti, and it's allowed me to grow as a person, because now I develop a lot of cultural skills. And I have a greater understanding of people's needs and how they can help with resiliency. So I've learned a lot from this, not just offering them support. They've been a great lifeline of support for me as well, too.
And I would add to your list discipline. And Raul Lopez is highly decorated. He is a little modest there on his accomplishments, but he's got about a half page of awards and decorations, and
thank you.
Very, very proud of you. Tell us a little bit, part of your job is outreach to the community and drawing the public in to support your cause. Do you have events coming up that you might want to know about?
Yeah, Kim, we do. And part of what I do in my outreach to help make the public aware of our program, because the public is probably my greatest advocate out there, because they know a lot of military members I don't know. So I try to make outreach to the Veterans of Foreign Wars, American Legion posts, and take an opportunity to speak to them about what we have here available at Camp Smith, where I'm located. I have a car, we'll travel. Okay. I'm not just available by phone. But also we have our Gold Star families and our military families. They like to honor their own individuals that have served the country well and no longer with us. We do have a number of events that will be coming up in March, April, and May. There's one in New York City in March that will be honoring the veterans of Vietnam War, and we're marking the 50th anniversary. That will be down at, they believe the address is 55 Water Street. It's a wall that's down there written with the letters of soldiers to their families about Vietnam. And we will be having an event down there. And I believe the date's March 23rd. In April, we're looking to honor our fallen soldiers with 2 events up in Pine Bush. The Von family is sponsoring a 5K run in honor of their son, who was with the New York Army National Guard and passed away in Iraq. We also are looking to honor another New York Army National Guard fallen soldier. Their family's from Connecticut. Hopefully the event will be at Camp Smith, more to be determined later. Okay. Honoring the family with a presentation of a hand-painted portrait by a well-known artist group that's in Dallas, Texas. And then in May, there will be other events honoring other fallen soldiers, as well as Memorial Day.
So people don't have to run if they want to donate to the cause.
Not at all. We even have a proposed dedication of a park in Wappingers Fall for a member of a unit that serves up here in Camp Smith that passed away in Afghanistan. So we have a number of events that come up that families want to get involved in. And one of the other things too, we do have a number of organizations out there, and I work with a quilters group that ironically is out in Pennsylvania. I will travel to Binghamton and have breakfast with these two elderly ladies. Of course, you know, I treat, but they create old Civil War quilts, which they send out to the families at no cost of fallen members as a tribute with their names, dates, and everything. To help them defray their expenses, because a lot of them are my survivors within this geographic region, I will travel out to Binghamton, meet with them, load up my truck with maybe 24 quilts, and bring them back with me here, and then I'll make appointments with those families and deliver those quilts to them in honor of that family from Pennsylvania that does the quilting, and bestow it upon them. It's a great way for me to reintroduce myself to the families. It's a great way to give them tribute, and also to thank organizations like the Quilting Association out in Pennsylvania for what they do.
Okay. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
I tell you, I would say call me. My military cell is posted on your screen. But the easiest way is actually to email me, because unfortunately with the distance and the number of survivors that I work with and support, I'm finding myself 3-4 days out of the office. And emailing me is a good way to tell me you need assistance, and I can give you a call or email you quickly back and say, what do you need? How can I get these services to you? I liaison with a number of other agencies and organizations, so there may be something that immediately I can't assist you with, but I'll put you in contact with a great person at the Veterans Administration, or some with a job agency or a counseling service, and we'll start the process that way. But you will get immediate response. We will put you in touch with those organizations that will provide assistance. And it's not just the active component people. I mean, if we have somebody from another component, the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force, I can't directly assist them because my database doesn't show those components, but I know who's in charge at McGuire or in Philadelphia, and I will immediately put your name into their hopper so that they can respond back to you to help you with that. So unfortunately, because I only have access to an Army database, I can't help the other branches except to redirect them to the proper location.
What's the best connection, if you can tell the story without giving away too much, but what's the best connection you've brought together that you felt good about?
Wow. It's a good one. I think the best one that I have really felt overwhelmingly successful and it's given me a great deal of pleasure was a recent passing of a soldier in Afghanistan in July, when I did my introduction with the surviving family, which was just the mother and a brother down in the Bronx. It was in a not so well neighborhood. It's a 5-story walk up. I was cautioned by the casualty assistance officer that there were some issues with the family, and there were some health issues with the surviving mother. The conditions were not of the best quality in her health conditions either, and seemed to be somewhat neglected. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a gold star mom. The son gave up his life in Afghanistan for us. I can't walk out of here just feeling that I've done my job by delivering benefits and entitlements. And even though I brought somebody from the Veterans Administration with me, from the Army, and I decided that I needed to do more. So I got involved with the son, and coordinating with him and the casework at the hospital for the surviving mom, I was able to get 24/7 home care attendance because she happens to be diabetic. Also, she had issues with not being able to walk properly. She had some amputations and some other medical issues. So knowing that from a 5-story walk up with no air conditioning, no elevator, she was wheelchair dependent, that I was able to make a difference to improve her health care, her eating, get her more assistance beyond just monies or paperwork, to actually change the quality of life for her and elevate it, was a great thing for me to do. So
that's a really touching story. And I know there'll be many people watching this in the Peekskill area that will want to do more and want to be good citizens and support you more, support our heroes however we can. So just as neighbors in Peekskill, what can we do?
I tell you, one of the greatest things that a soldier welcomes is to be recognized. And it's a little embarrassing sometimes when in uniform, everybody walks up to you, thank you, and we tend to be self-serving. But one of the things is say thank you to a soldier and to their families for what they've provided for our country. But also be aware of any type of outreach. Support your American Legion posts, your VFW posts. If you know military members, encourage them to join it, because unfortunately we need more young people at these posts to continue the liaison. Camp Smith offers a lot of opportunities for our young people if they're interested in a military career as well. It's a welcome location and a breath of fresh air to this community. We've done a lot to upgrade its facilities in the last 10 years from what it was previously looking like. So I would say thank a soldier. Take the time to write a letter to them. It does get to them, and it does make a difference. So
they could actually send forward the letter to
They can reach her, and I'll provide you information how they can be reached through your website. We have family services program personnel at Camp Smith that work with the units, and they could forward those letters directly to the theater. Well,
we're wrapping up here, but I just want to give you an opportunity one more time, if you can, to give those dates of the events.
Sure. In March in New York City, the Vietnam War Memorial Recognition Day, which is March 23rd, I believe it's 55 Water Street.
They're over here.
And we also have 2 other locations. We have Pine Bush that will be coming up in April, and an event in Wappingers Fall in May at a dedication of a memorial park for one of our fallen soldiers. So those dates I'll provide to you, Kim, and you can post them on your website. The public is welcome to attend. We encourage public participation.
Well, Raul, thank you so much. Raul Lopez here with us today. Quite an honor. Thank you so much for your service and all the things that you're doing. And come back again, please.
Great. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. That's all for today. Bye. Goodbye.